recap of the auras and chakras and the healing techniques in that, a recap of our first and second sessions in the beginning, and then the Karya Siddhi techniques or the Karya Siddhi Prayoga, the Karya Siddhi and what is the meaning of it, and how do we implement it, or rather, how do we understand and implement it every day in our day to day life in coordination with the chakras and aura output in a practical way, and an analysis of that and understanding of that, which every one of us are doing it every day in a day-to-day basis, but in a subconscious way, rather not realizing in a conscious way. So the purpose of that was to bring in the conscious way of understanding and to really benefit from that. When something is done in a conscious way rather than a subconscious way, it becomes more productive, and it becomes more productive in terms of bringing out all the potentialities hidden inside oneself, hidden inside one's soul, hidden inside one's body. And that is what was the purpose yesterday, where we were trying to analyze auras and chakras and the output of that through Karya Siddhi, which we achieve as a resultant of that, the output of aura and the chakra enhancement in the right tuning and in the right equilibrated way. So today, when we analyze, we have the first slide here, which shows clearly the third eye activation. Yesterday, when we were talking about the recap and the chakras, one of the main chakras towards the upper side of the body, the Agnya chakra, the third eye, which is known as the Agnya chakra, as we had mentioned yesterday. That is what is seen in this slide here as the third eye. And we see that there is a word mentioned here as third eye activation. Why activation? And what is the importance of the third eye? And where is it situated? Can any one of you tell me, which we have already gone through regarding the third eye? One of you? Yes? Hello? Any one of you? Can you describe what is the third eye and where it is placed or situated in the human body? And what is the importance of that?
I think it is situated in the forehead.
Yes.
And what it depicts is how we can perceive something beyond what we can normally see. Right. So I think it refers to some higher consciousness.
True. But where is it placed in the forehead?
Not sure. I don't know.
I think if you recollect what we had mentioned in the first and second levels, and even yesterday I had repeated that the third eye is the Agnya chakra place. You can see in the side, the same slide on the sides, where it is very clearly seen. It is in between the two eyelids in the center point of your forehead, and which is known as Agnya. Agnya in Sanskrit or in Hindi. What is Agnya? The word meaning of Agnya. Agnya is order. Order. So why it is known as the Agnya chakra, order chakra? Why it is known as the order chakra? And why it is known as the third eye? Because in between the both eyes, this is supposed to be the another eye in you, which is hidden, which is covered up. So that is why there is no eyelid openly seen outside, right? Agnya, why it is known as Agnya and order? Because that is where you have, as you said, the higher consciousness. You are 100% right that it is in the higher consciousness level, which it takes you to which it takes anyone to, because it is placed in the upper forehead, and it is directly connected to the Sahasrara, the head, the brain, and how it is connected, because that is what is known as the pineal gland, the endocrine gland there, which is a Sukshma chakra, is actually the pineal gland. The pineal gland is the one which gives the hormone melatonin, which is a sleep pattern hormone, the sleeping hormone for each one of us. And how important sleep is for each one of us is very evidently seen nowadays when you see a lot of people having the problems of insomnia. I am sure every one of you would have heard of about what is known as insomnia. Insomnia is a condition when the sleeping pattern of you gets disrupted, and that leads you to lot of conditions, medical conditions like depression, despondence, breakdown of your nervous system, lot of problems, medical conditions which arise due to insomnia, right? You would have heard, and it is very common nowadays, especially when people have different working patterns. They have the day night shifts of working, and especially after this COVID time, it has become more so when you have less of sleep because it has more of work due to the digital system, right? The more of output and the sleeping pattern which gets disrupted. And usually also, when you see that people moving out, traveling from one place to the other, have this so-called jet lags and all those things, which are again related to the sleeping pattern disruptions, which happen due to the travel and time zones. This again leads to a lot of conditions of insomnia in smaller amounts, and it gets accumulated to disrupt your sleeping pattern. That means it disrupts your pineal gland, the third eye, and that disrupts the secretion and levels of your melatonin pattern of secretion in the body. And that melatonin hormone is the one which is ordering the pituitary gland in your body, which is a master endocrine gland, that is the Sahasrara Chakra, Sukshma Chakra, the endocrine gland, which is the pituitary gland in the head, Sahasrara, the crown chakra. So the crown chakra in itself, the highest level of spiritual consciousness is the crown chakra. Yesterday also we saw that, and that is governed by the pineal gland, which is the actually the master gland in the human body, the master chakra in the human body, because that is the one which connects all your, from the desire chakra, that is the Muladhara. It pulls all the energy of the Kundalini to reach out to the Sahasrara. And this is the medium chakra, which is the most important to give you that consciousness of intellect, the consciousness of spirituality, the consciousness of everything, because sleeping pattern is right and you get the consciousness in your body. Otherwise, you have a unconscious, disrupted way of food or whatever conditions they say, which goes to the higher level when many people get it, like Alzheimer's or dementia and memory loss, all these things which happen due to sleep pattern disruptions, sleep pattern diseases. And that is why the third eye is very important in terms of a day-to-day basis for each one of us, and not only for elevated, higher ascended masters who use that energies and the consciousness to reach to the highest levels of the Sahasrara, where the Sahasra is 1,000, the 1,000-petaled. Why they say 1,000-petaled crown chakra? Because 1,000 petals indicates the nerve points, the neurons which get opened up. Opened up means what? They are able to assimilate and get energies and the consciousness to the highest level to become a superhuman. That is the usage of the brain, like a scientist who is supposed to be a superhuman, because he invents, he discovers a lot of things which are already hidden in this universe, but hidden in such a way that the common man is not able to explore in a day-to-day basis, right? Years down the line from the time of yore, it has been a process of explorations which the human culture, the human civilizations have gone through. And all this has happened due to the third eye activation in a regulated and continuous process to a large extent. If you analyze this in a very simple way, this is what has been happening. But that is something which is said in a very simple way, but not so simple if you think so in a deep way. So this is the importance of third eye and the melatonin, which is secreted by it, the pineal gland, which gives you the highest consciousness. And this is directly this Sukshma chakra, the third eye, the pineal gland, is connected to the Parakosha chakra behind you, the nerve plexus, which is the medulla oblongata, which is connected to that, the third eye, which is the memory and all the consciousness storehouse medically in the body. I am explaining this medically so that you get the clear picture in a layman's and the modern day man's concept very clearly. So the third eye activation is very important in the right regulated way, and so the importance of sleep. Here I want to bring into your notice regarding something which we discussed yesterday, because there was a question which was very valid. I forgot who had asked that, but I remember the question and the answer which I gave to you yesterday regarding, sir, na meditation panartha, I am able to get thukam, I am able to get a sleeping this thing, I am able to feel very drowsy and sleepy. It is a relaxing way. It's not only vibrating. I get first, we get a little bit of sleep or drowsiness when we start doing meditation. It becomes very sleepy. That's what yesterday was asked. And I said that is natural, and that is that way only, because we are doing it. When we do it, we are coming with the opposite way of doing it, in the sense right way only, but two ways of it, vice versa. We start with the Sahasrara, and that is why that is happening. That was the answer I gave you yesterday, right? So sleeping pattern, so meditation. And that is why in olden days in Sanskrit, there is a saying, Nidra Samadhi Sthitihi. Nidra Samadhi Sthitihi. Samadhi is what? Samadhi is just like the Shavasana in yogic postures, where you do it in a Padmasana or in whichever way of posture you are in, more likely in Padmasana and in a seated way in the ground or whatever, and where you are totally relaxed in your body system. You are totally relaxed. And when you do a Shavasana, also you lie in the floor, totally relaxed and stretched. And that is what is known as Samadhi. And in that Samadhi, you are in a conscious state. Definitely, of course, you are in a conscious state. But at the same time, all your activities in the body is in a very relaxed and restful way. But only your chitta works, only your brain works. And that is where the third eye is activated. And that is what all the great saints used to do in a Padmasana, by doing a Samadhi Sthiti, by meditation. So there where you have Nidra in it, it's a Nidra for the outside world, because you are closing your eyes and you are, meditating, where you get Nidra. And that Nidra is not the usual Nidra in the normal way, but it's a higher level of sleep. A higher level of sleep to reach out, to sleep from the worldly things, sleep from the mundane things, but of course having the mundane thing as being in that atmosphere and in that environment, but then achieving more higher consciousness, because the concentration becomes focused. Focal points are notified, focal points are prioritized, and that is where you have this third eye activation. So here again we have one valid point to say. So what is the activation process? That is more important, which we have to learn. Activation process can be achieved by what? In a simple layman's language and in a simple layman's practice. How do we start doing it? Rather than see, because higher saints, the ascended masters, have already achieved it in a very higher level. So what should we do as a layman to achieve it and start, at least make the start of it in a conscious way? As I had mentioned here, few sentences before, that each one of us is definitely having this, and we are doing it in a day-to-day basis. Only thing is we are not consciously realizing it. So the purpose is to consciously realize each and everything which we do in a day-to-day basis in a very coordinated and focused manner. And that is why we said that once we do that, we definitely can consciously realize that our third eye is activated, and we go to, and that depicts how do you know, what is the acid test of how do you know it is activated? it gets, you know that it is activated in a simple way by the way of your doing things, by the way you are doing. Suppose, for example, I put it in a simple way, you do certain things in a particular manner. Generally, if you have a nature of doing certain things in a particular manner, once your third eye starts getting activated, you can see the changes in the patterns and the time and the period and the prioritization techniques and skills which have been sharpened in you over the period of your third eye activation. This is the acid test of your, this is the resultant of your third eye activation. And the more you consciously do, your skills and the sharpening goes higher. Just like, I'll give you another example. If suppose you are doing one thing, one deed, whatever simple deed, maybe even making some food, particular food item in the house, in a particular pattern, and you are only able to do that as a single functional skill. When your third eye activation increases, when your third eye gets sharpened up, you will be able to achieve 2-3 things at the same time. In the sense, you will have the focal points to concentrate on 2-3 things at the same time without losing out in any one of them, which is the multifunctional skills, and which we are all doing every day nowadays. And even in the olden days, people used to do that. But only thing is, it used to differ with the sharpness and the resultants with each one of us according to the activation of our conscious third eye, the conscious third eye. And that happens only with the, how do we do it? I said, now I was saying, how do we do it? The first step to do it is to have a clear sleeping pattern. The sleeping pattern is very important, so that the secretion of that hormone is regulated. When the chakra regulates the secretion of the hormone in the right required way, and that is when our Sahasrara, because it is directly coordinating with that, the Sahasrara also becomes regulated in the right way to direct the body to all the deeds in sharpening ourselves. This is how the practice is to be done. The first way, in the first step, that is the sleeping pattern. Kindly note, the sleeping pattern is to be regulated to activate the third eye. That is the first practice. So have a good sleeping pattern. Have a good sleeping pattern. So how to have a good sleeping pattern? According to the Vedic texts, according to the yogic practices, and according to even the modern day science, which is all one and the same in a more modern, the language where it is put in. But actually, the essence is the same. They all say it is required that each one of us at least has a minimum of 5 hours of sleep. 5 hours minimum, bare minimum, 5 hours of sleep in a day. Whether you do it in the night, whether you do it in the day, 5 hours, the time amount is very important. This is the first step. The second step, okay, whether you do it in the day or whether you do it in the night, here we are coming to one important controversy, or you can say contradiction. Whether you do it in the day or whether you do it in the night, we are mentioning about that. Is it true that it is only required that we do it only in the night, or we do it in the day? Right? That becomes a very common question, because people may ask, okay, we have a night shift, we can't do it in the night. Can we do it in the day? Then whether this pattern gets disrupted? No, not exactly, because the human body, gets into acclimatization of situations, acclimatization of the circumstances and the environment. For example, I give you a very simple eye-opener example. When you go for a surgery, for example, you go for a bypass surgery, what do they do actually? If anyone has seen what they do in the hospitals, in the ICU, when they do this surgery in the surgery hall or whatever it is, you'll really be shocked to know that we only know that bypass they do, they open the heart and do the, it's easy to say what they do. They have a, just like you have the drilling machine for the floor, to cut something, rather than drilling the cutting for in the building to cut the iron rods and all, when they make it, the same way they have a machine where they cut your ribs. They open up your ribs, they cut your ribs, they break it, and then they get into the heart, and then they do the surgery. And then once the surgery is done, they correct the heart, then this whatever ribs are left out, they are not doing anything. It has to heal itself and rejoin back. That is why it takes 1 or 2 months. So still, or maybe 1 or 2 months or few days, depending on each one's body condition. So how the body is able to recoup back within the few months or few days, the ribs are again joining, the heart becomes normal. Heart, of course, they did a surgery, but the ribs, which are completely, opened up and broken and, separated out like Narasimha Avatar, they remove it both sides, they open it up like a screen. So that gets healed back, the body gets healed back. Now, in a simple way, when you have a cut in the finger, within a few days, the skin is formed back, right? The body is able to recoup. So the human body or an animal body or whatever, any body, any living body, the cell activity is in such a way that it heals back, it recupes, and it resurrects itself to the pattern where it is put into. So it is very important to what pattern we pattern ourselves. Patterning ourselves is an important part in each one of us. And that is why I said, according to each one's arena of doing things, each one's arena where we are into, each one's area where we are into, each one's circumstances where we are into, each one's working pattern where we are into, the working hours and things, we can prioritize the sleeping pattern, correct it to that extent, and maintain the number of hours, which is more important rather than which is a day or night. Because the working patterns of people all through the world has changed. It's not that it has changed now. Even in the olden days, there has been a lot of change. But then we have just not been able to recollect those things. So we think it is happening nowadays only, right? So the first and the second steps is, the first step is the sleeping pattern. The second step is the number of hours of sleep. And the third is the sleeping posture. How do we sleep? Do we sleep in a Shavasana way, or do we sleep in a very twisted way? These are all also important points for the flow of energy and the activation of the third eye, because the Kundalini has to reach to the third eye to open and activate it. So we have to have a very stretched and nice, relaxed way of sleep, which is also important for the third eye activation. Now, coming to the fourth practical activation method of the third eye, what has to be done? As we had mentioned yesterday, the assimilation of the right foods. Why the assimilation of the right foods? Lighter foods. Lighter foods. What is the meaning of lighter foods? Lighter foods in the sense, foods which don't contain too much of fat. Foods which don't contain too much of fat content, not energy content. I'm not mentioning about carbohydrates, which give you energy. I'm mentioning about fat content foods which clog your blood vessels. When the blood vessels are clogged and the tendency of this clogging happens and the thickening of your blood vessels happen, definitely your nerve flow is also affected. As I had mentioned, one vessel is below the other vessel. The blood vessel and the nerve vessels are one below the other. So it gets suppressed, it gets, aழுத்தறது, that is அமுத்தறது, that happens, which is really not good for the flow of energy. It is not good for the flow of lymph. So here, please note why I mentioned this very scientifically is to make you understand exactly what is the crux of the matter. Because lymph, I mentioned the word lymph. Lymph is the fluid flowing in the nerves, and lymph, that means the secretive, actually the secret behind all these things is the lymph in the human body. All the chakras are properly aligned and the output happens properly only if your lymphatic system and the lymph flow in your each nerve, just like each blood capillary has blood flow, your lymph flow has to be clearly fast and regulated in the right way without any blocks anywhere, whether it is the knee, whether it is your leg, whether it is the hand, your elbow, whether it is your neck. These are the portions where the lymph usually gets blocked, like where we have conditions of spondylitis, arthritic, rheumatoid arthritis, where all these conditions we have the flow of lymph disrupted. So the flow of lymph is very much required in the right way, and for that the stretching of the body in the right way is required rather than twisting and having a disrupted pattern of sleep and the posture of sleep. So the posture of sleep is very important. The third point, which is very important for the practical implementation of how to activate the third eye. These are the simple three methods of third eye activation, which can be practiced by each one of us, including the first one being the sleeping pattern, the number of hours being the second one, the third one being the sleeping posture, the fourth one being the kind of lighter foods which we take so that the body flow, the lymph flow, the blood flow is corrected in the right way. So these are the four methods, rather simple methods, practical methods, which we can follow from day one to correct the situations and activate get the third eye activated in a conscious state of mind where we realize. Now when we are almost completing the session today, we'll have in the last slides what are the other simple things in a day-to-day way practice of how to activate the third eye. Before that, I go to the next slide here describing certain important things. You can see in this slide where we have astral projections, right? We would have heard the word astral projections many a times in our life, and also incidents of astral travels by different saints and ascended masters. And even we would have heard about astral travels by certain people as a miracle or whatever we see. We term it as a miracle, but lot of with awe, with Adisayam, we would have heard about this, right? But in the case of yogic masters, in the case of ascended masters in the olden days, we have heard a lot like this to a more common way. We have heard about that, right? And that astral projection is what is depicted, displayed in this slide, where it is a spiritual activity. What is astral projection? Suppose I'm giving you a simple layman's explanation to that. Astral projection happens when your third eye is activated to a larger extent because your consciousness becomes more sharpened, as I had mentioned in simple terms. When it gets more sharpened, what happens? You are able to experience as if you are traveling somewhere. You are able to see certain things. You are able to, why see? What is seeing? You are just seeing from your inner eye. You are seeing from your inner eye, and that is what you think you are seeing from your outer eye. Because what is the inner eye, the third eye? Why? Because it is from your brain, from your manas, from your mind, and you are able to project. You are able to project as if you have already traveled somewhere, in the sense because your sharpening of your mind goes so sharp that you become a three-dimensional entity in terms of projecting things. Just like how scientific discoveries happen, they are all astral projections which were initially thought to be impossible, which were thought to be impossible, but then it became possible due to the projections which were done over a period by sharpening the third eye. And all the scientific discoveries and the scientists have the third eye activated to a large extent because it is sharpened day to day, it is sharpened, and they all actually do this astral travels, astral projections, and that is why all the discoveries have happened. I'll come out with these discoveries and explanations to give you example here. if you take simply in a very simple way, what happens when the astral projections were done, how scientists achieved things which we now term, oh, it is very common, it happens, we all know. Everyone says that is true. But has this been experienced that it will happen few years before? Everyone used to think, no, 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 few 100 years or 50 years above before, was anyone able to think that there will be something like this happening? They were all saying, no, 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 it is only in stories, right? It is not stories, it is astral projections. For example, n number of examples here. You had C-sections, which in olden days was not at all there, C-section deliveries. Now it is very common. So that is which one, that is the thing which was not even thought of that it will happen that way. People used to die in very olden days. There was no C-section, there was no cesarean deliveries. So cutting of the stomach, has anyone thought of that? And again, here I'm bringing one more thing to your mind. Sometime before a sentence, I had said how impossible, how it was when they did a bypass surgery, how the body recuperates. Do you see here that the C-section is the same? When a lady has a C-section, how when the stomach is 15 centimeters, when it is cut, and inside the uterus is also cut open to take the child, how it again regains back. They don't do anything else. Outside, they put a stitch. That's it. Inside, they don't do anything. It automatically heals, right? So that was something which was miraculous, and that was something like a miracle in olden days. But now each and every one of us has this C-sections, right? Cryopreservation, which is another thing which was not at all there, which we thought that it is not going to happen. Cryopreservation is another astral projection which was done and achieved by the scientists, through which we are able to get the IVF and store the eggs and embryos and everything, which is impossible, which was in olden days, which we thought so, right? Test tube babies. Then we had the recent times, we had the genetic cloning, the goat, the sheep. I forgot the name, Dolly or Donny or something. Everyone knows that, and that was from America only, right? And again, we have growth hormones, which was not there, which we thought, which is impossible. How can suddenly somebody grow? When we heard about stories where Pradyumna, Krishna's son, suddenly grew from a child to a big man within few days. How was it possible? It was a projection, the astral projection, which was given so many years before, and which is happening now, as where we have the growth hormones to regulate the growth of a person, and aesthetic modulations, cosmetology, which was plastic surgeries, which was not there, which we thought is impossible. What structure you are into, you will have the same structure till the end, right? No, it can be modulated. So astral projections there also. That is where we have something called, in a funny way, you say, you had the Sukumaran case, which happened in Kerala, and now a film has come out in that, taking that story, live story, where a person totally changed himself, and till now nobody is able to catch him, right? Where he is, nobody knows. No history is known. So that are all astral projections. Then you had all this, the geographical, not only humans, astral projections in such a way where a geographical transformation was made from nothing to a gold mine, like where I am sitting now, the place where I am sitting now, which was a desert, right? The same way, interplanetary travels, you have space travels, which was not even imagined. It all had an astral projection to happen. And now we are traveling to Mars, and more likely soon to the sun, which America is already researching, right? NASA is already researching into solar explorations, the sun and the solar explorations. Then the same way, not only up above, down below also, we have been able to achieve the deep oceanography, oil explorations. Has anyone thought years before that we will be building, pipelines of oil below the sea? Is it possible? Ocean kadila, samudratu kadila panna mudiyumnu, had anyone had an idea? Which was highly imaginative. And even now, though we know in the conscious mind that there are pipelines inside the sea, but we are not able to believe it. Many a times, if you sit alone and analyze, அரே எப்படி அது நடக்கும், இட் வில் பிரேக், வெள்ளம் வந்து சால்ட் வாட்டர் எல்லாத்தையும் உடைக்கும், ஓஷன் ஷார்க்ஸ் எல்லாம் இருக்கும், கடிக்காதா பைப் லைன், all these things go in the mind, right? It is an astral projection which was achieved in the highest form by the so-called human beings only. It has been by through us only. So superhumans we became. So if we think and activate the third eye, definitely the astral projections in whichever form can be done, but in a day-to-day basis, we have to sharpen it. Then only we achieve it. Not just by saying that today we did it, tomorrow itself I'll be achieving something great and just straight going into the space. No, that is not that way. You go step by step. And that is how all these achievements have been achieved by our human beings only, right? And then we have also what is going further ahead in science, where now in many countries we have hyperloop. From here, for example, there is something which has already come out. America, I'm sure many years before itself, these astral projections have already happened. Just like we have from here, from Dubai to Abu Dhabi, within 15 minutes, hyperloop has come. You can travel within 15 minutes in a hyperloop, which was unimaginable years before. And then we have the drones, which even we use for the marriages to record the precision of Mangalya Dharanam, which was not possible in olden days. We have drone marriages, right? And then we have stem cell therapies, which was really, they used to say it was a myth in olden days when they used to tie the placenta's piece, the umbilical cord's piece rather, in your waist in olden days. Actually, that was stem cell. In those days itself, they had the technique, but then science had to project it later in a big way as stem cell therapy. And you can see how far it helps in diseases like cancer and everything, actually. So these are some things which are the astral projections which were humanly made in the right way by the third eye projections, activations, which was done in a day-to-day basis by the scientists who are also normal human beings, but who have been able to achieve this for us and what we are enjoying today in all the resultant benefit in the modern world, right? So please realize the importance of astral projections, which each one of you can do from within you, which is a Karya Siddhi, in the form of Karya Siddhi, which has happened by the scientists with all these explorations and the discoveries, and the results of which we are comfortably enjoying. Actually, not only enjoying, each one of us is doing it every day in our own way, but we are not able to enlist and analyze. When you enlist and analyze each one of your small achievements, I am giving you the method in a practical layman's way. In a small day-to-day achievements, if you sit and analyze for a few minutes every day before you sleep, you really will become more stronger by your third eye activation. Automatically, your energy flow inside each chakra increases, the output of the aura increases, and you become more confident a person, and the projections increases, and you will be able to have that puripu, the achievement, more stronger, where from a ring to a band to a halo of aura output enlightens you and comes out like a great yogi or an ascended master or a scientist. It really happens. Now coming to the next slide. Yes. Here you can see a beautiful slide depicted, displayed here, showing the Samudra Manthana. Samudra Manthanam. Manthanam is what? Manthanam is churning. When we see this slide, I have to take you to the advent and history of Karya Siddhi Yoga and the practices. Because aura and chakra healing is a methodology, is a practical methodology. To what? To what purpose? The purpose is for Karya Siddhi, to achieve Karyas, to achieve our goals, in the right way, in the right realistic way, and enjoy and reach that bliss of enjoyment. Bliss of enjoyment can be to do with anything. It can be to do with any karya. It need not be something only spiritual in a very high way. It can be in a day-to-day way, in our small things, even making a sweet in the way you want to be. That is also a karya siddhi. So karya siddhi depends. For a child, getting a chocolate, a very good chocolate, a branded chocolate, that itself is a karya siddhi. That is a karya siddhi. So for each one of us, there are different karyas, and each karya is a siddhi when it happens. So how to achieve that? So before going into that, and achieving it is what is done through aura and chakra, input, output of aura in the right way, and healing of it, and tuning it and churning it. And that is where I would like you to see this slide and get into the advent and history of Karya Siddhi Yoga, which I am going to describe now. Here you can see Samudra Mantana. Samudra Mantana was one of the important Karya Siddhis in a greatest way, in a very big magnitude which was achieved. The Karya was so big. Why so big? Can you say why so big, any one of you? Can you just come out with what you are able to see when you see this slide? Yes. I would like everyone to interact so it becomes more clear for each one of us, and we really enjoy the benefits of the Karya Siddhi and try to understand it more better. Yes. Any one of you? I am not able to hear anyone. I hope no one is going into Nidra Samadhi Sthiti.
No, we are here, Shivakumar Garu.
Yes. Yes. Can anyone come out with what you are able to see in this and what you can imagine or what you can come out with in this slide?
This is that Amridam Kadayara.
Yes, yes. That is really a valid point. Amridam Kadayara Samudra Mantana, right? Samudra Mantanam Garda, Mantanam is churning, right? Mantanam is a Sanskrit word which is used, which is the meaning of it in English. It can be translated as churning. Churning a churning happens when something has to be pushed out, which has to come out of it, right? So churning is done to make something come out of it. So what was coming out of this Samudra Mantram? Can anyone say what all came out roughly? If you had heard about the legend.
Amudam, I've heard.
Amritam came out, and that is what you can see. One person is carrying it in the hand in a pot in this slide, right? In the middle of the mountain.
Yes.
Right?
Amritam came in the end, but there were so many other things that came before that.
Now this is what who was this? Is this Rani?
Yes, Shivakumar Garu.
I'm really, I have to appreciate you, because this is the sentence I was expecting from every one of you, because Amritam came only in the end. Kindly note this sentence, which is not a simple sentence. Amritam came out only in the end. There were so many things which came out before that, right? So if you see the slide here in a deep way, if you notice it, you can see that the snake, which is towards the other side, there is some smoke type of thing coming above it, right? From its mouth, which is depicted here. And at the same time, you can also see in this slide, there is a lot of birds which are flying here and there above the waters, right? And then again, you notice it, again, you can see towards both the sides, there are different types of people. It is not the same people. One side you have the demons, one side you have the devas. The devas on the one side, and the other side the demons. And above you can see Mahavishnu in a seated form in a lotus. And below you can see a man standing with a pot of Amritam. Right? Are you able to see it very clearly, all of you?
Yep. Yes.
Yes. So, as you mentioned, there were so many things when the churning happened which came out, and ultimately, at last, only they got the Amrita. So it takes, and what does it indicate? It is the advent of Karya Siddhi. The history of it started with this. How it was depicted so. Why? Because to make people understand that when you churn something, when you churn your energies inside you, when you churn and focus, try to bring out all the potentialities inside you. First, lot of things which are not required and which are also required, both come out. Both come out. Everything comes out. Ultimately, only you achieve the highest form of success. Ultimately. So, many success and despondence both keep coming side by side. Just like here, you can see what all came out. Can anyone say what all came out of Samudra Manthan? If you can guess. Yes. Hello.
Can't
I hope I am
remember. I
audible.
knew that I can't remember. Maybe something which is more uh, when you say in the end it was successful, right? Something which is more
Yes.
negative, or I wouldn't say negative, some like learning process.
Yes. Yes. Here, now I will enlist this so that it is very interesting to know the Karya Siddhi, how it is achieved. For each one of us, it's an indicator. You have to, from this, you will be able to analyze each one of you in your own arena, how to do Karya Siddhi in a simple way. Just like I mentioned, making a sweet, to going to a shop, to going to the office, all these things, how to achieve in a stronger way where more things are done in benefit to you. That is what this Samudra Manthan indicates as a Karya Siddhi. Now, when the Samudra Manthan was done, initially the Hala Hala Vesha came out. The poison from the snake, when it was being churned, when it was being used as a rope, the most deadly poison came out first. And that is what is seen as a smoke above, which almost clouded the eyes of both the demons and the devas, and then the entire universe, wherein we have heard the story that Lord Shiva drank the poison on the instructions of Lord Narayana to save the whole universe, right? And that is how Pradosham came into advent in the world, the practice of Pradosham. When Shiva drank the poison, and even being Lord Shiva, a snake's poison, there is another Karya Siddhi there, an indication. A snake's poison, whether it is one's own snake, pet snake also. A poison is a poison, and even the greatest of the souls had to undergo that, cannot escape from it. And that is why Lord Shiva fell unconscious for a few minutes or seconds. And that is when, to resurrect him, the Pradosham was there, which came out. I'm just saying it in a very short way, the story which depicts the extent of negativity, how it affects a person in spite of being even the Lord himself, and how he came out of it. So this is the first thing which came out, Samudra Manthan. Then you had the Navaratnas, which are all the 9 gems which came out of the ocean. 9 gems which came out of the ocean. So here it indirectly explains the deep sea explorations which were done, the deep sea explorations which were done in olden days. And that is what we are doing today, where we are able to deep sea explore and get all the oil bases in the world, right? All the oil bases, all the treasures, all the maritime programs which are done. This is an indication of that. Samudra Manthan is the Karya Siddhi of the explorations of the ocean, the oceanography which was done in olden days, which we are doing in a highly extended Karya Siddhi way in nowadays, by getting all the treasures of the oil explorations, all the treasures of maritime transports and logistics, and all this which is being by through the ocean, which is being used, all the cruising travel, everything to different exploration levels, from the deep to the above the surface, right? This is what is seen here, and lot of the things which came out of it. Dhanvantari, who is holding the pot of Amrita ultimately, who came out of it. Mahalakshmi, who came in between from the sea, from the ocean. The Chintamani, the Kamadhenu, the Visravas, which Uchaisravas, the divine horse, the unicorn horse, which went to Indra according to the stories. So all these things, all the good things along with the poison, everything came out of the Samudra Manthan. So that was the exploration with great efforts for so many days, which the demons and the devas depicted to us, which we are doing and the scientists are doing. Each one of us is doing a churning every day in our mind, but the churning goes in a different, disrupted way many a times because of our unconscious, subconscious efforts rather than a conscious effort. So if we consciously churn what we want to do and enlist things, then you get all the list of things done step by step. Of course, when you churn it, there will be points where you get all the negative poisons also coming out of it, which you have to discard and still continue with the endurance and patience and the efforts. That is what is seen here. In spite of the poison coming out, the devas and the demons still started churning further again and again. And ultimately, lot of these things came out. All the good things, Mahalakshmi, Airavatam, Uchaisravas, Kamadhenu, the 9 gems, Chintamani, Jayanti Mala, then this Dhanvantari with the Amritam, and then the Mohini who came out, Mahavishnu. All these things happened through the churning of these oceans, which was a long-term process. And this is the churning of the human mind, which is depicted here, which can achieve anything which is impossible, so-called impossible. Impossible was there, just like we had in Ramayana, where Hanuman traveled over the sea. We have heard that. And now, flying over the sea. Yes, every day now we are flying over the sea through the flight, right? Were there flights in olden days? Could we imagine that it will happen? How they made? They saw the birds flying, and that was the concept which made the first flight to come into being, right? So which was impossible. That was an astral projection which was done through Karya Siddhi. The continuous churning, the thinking process, the continuous observation process, the continuous research and discovery into it, which of course initially was not perfect. Then over the churning of these issues, we reached out to the perfection of now even the supersonic jets which go above the space also. So we have reached out to that level in the human effort. So definitely we can reach out to higher levels if each one of us starts doing this manthan of our mind inside, where all the chakras are corrected. Manthan is done by what? Manthan is done, the churning is done by prioritizing, enlisting whatever you want to do. Enlist each and everything every day, and then start your effects one by one. It starts falling in place. Of course, in between, you get poisons, that is failures also, mini failures, which you don't get into thinking that that is the end of it. That is where we leave the manthan, and just like the devas and demons left it in between when the Hala Hala Vesha came out, and then Lord Shiva had to interfere to correct it. But for us, the interference of correction can be done by ourselves only, our mindset only, not that somebody will come and do it for us. That somebody is our mind inside itself, which we are already having it with us, which we are already in possession of, and which we are the sole owners of, so which we can do it easily. Now coming to the next slide, over the history, the next slide, you see here Bandhanam, Setu Bandhanam. Setu Bandhanam, everyone is aware because of late we are hearing a lot of this news in Tamil Nadu and all, where we heard even when Jayalalitha ji was there and Karunanidhi ji was there, that there was a lot of controversy regarding breaking of the Setu Bridge. The Setu Bridge, which is under the sea, actually. And NASA has already taken the pictures of it. Everyone is aware of it. It's all available in YouTube, Google, and everything. So, which is proved. The Setu bridge, which was constructed by Rama and the Vanaras in so many millions of years before, is still intact below the sea. And NASA has taken the pictures. And the same thing, not only NASA, in the modern day, Jayalalitha ji and Karnataka ji had all the controversy, and it was to be broken, and then they said they need not be broken. Just imagine, how was it possible millions of years before, or thousands of years before, whatever time period you put it, at least not 100 or 10 years, it is more than so many years, how it could be built without any modern technology, just by rocks and certain kinds of rocks, which were very peculiar, where it is lightweight, which doesn't sink, it just floats over the ocean waters. So technology was definitely there. The human intellect was definitely there. Don't take it as just God has done it. Just I am putting it in the human effort for you to understand how it was done. And that is why Rama was born as a human being, not as a God himself, right? A God incarnation we call because of the superpowers which he displayed, the superhuman where he is, the Purushottama where he is. That is why we call him as the Purushottama. Purusha, the human, and Uttama, the perfect human, that is the superhuman with a super intellect. So it is the basic principle there, means for Karya Siddhi, you have to have the intellect sharpened. So what is the intellect? The third eye being sharpened. I am coming to that again. So it's a simple way if you analyze it in a very deep sense. So the analysis is very important. So where we have this point now, the main point is that the analysis and prioritization and enlisting of things is what is to be our first activity from day one, which will really bring in all this Karya Siddhi through our aura output, which increases. And that is what was I am coming to tell you. And now, if you see this slide here, the Setu Bandhanam. Bandhanam is tying. Manthanam is churning. So first we came with churning of things, then we are coming to tying of things. Why tying of things? Tying is enlisting. Churning is bringing out things, right? So when we churn, then we try to analyze what to enlist. So that is why we have the second slide here as Setu Bandhanam. So you can see here multitasking, which is an important part in enlisting, because you have to enlist 10 things at a time, or maybe 5 things at a time. So you require multifunctional skills to how to do each thing. So you enlist how to do also, right? We plan certain things. We go for a tour package, for example, in a simple layman's language. What do? We enlist at least the lady of the house, who always is a multifunctional person in any family rather than the man. Sorry, I'm not gender bias. I'm not bringing in here, but I'm just mentioning the general trend. A lady of any house who is more multifunctional always thinks when you go for a tour, oh, what all has to be packed? What food has to be packed? What provision will be done for the food? And when we go there, how we'll travel? When we travel, how much we will spend, and where to stay, and where there will be any amenities nearby for stay, where you can cover 2-3 more places nearby. All this will be taught by a lady, more multifunctionally. And that multifunctional things is what you can see in this slide, where you can see some Vanaras writing the name of Rama in the rocks, the other Vanaras preparing how to bind it in the sides here in the slide. The other side, some Vanaras putting the rocks in place. So it is a process, it is a multifunctional process done with multitude of people and who are working as a team. The team spirit and management theory in a corporate is what is displayed in Bandhana. So when you have to tie something in the right way and bring a assimilated energy together to work as a team spirit is required. And the team spirit is being directed and delegated by, you can see these two people, Rama and Lakshmana. Rama sitting and supervising it, and Lakshmana instructing by showing his hand. You can see there in this slide. So delegation, management, instruction, and team spirit. these four things, the four activities are enlisted, and that has been displayed as a multifunctional bandhana, the bandhana, setu bandhana. So here there is another point and activity which also needs to be indicated, which is seen in the slide in a hidden way. It indicates that we have to tie people, we have to actually interact and bring in a team spirit between people, and the team spirit and interaction and the rapport, the good rapport of people is what is important. So rapport is another activity where you have an interactive this thing with people, which brings in more churning of energies, the churning, the mantana, which leads you to Karya Siddhi. In a corporate, how do? You do it through a team spirit. You have a group of people, above them you have a manager, above them you have a chairman or a super manager, then you have your CEO or whatever. All this hierarchy, why it is maintained? You have a group spirit, then only things happen. So you cannot be just an individual independent person. You have to have independent individuality. At the same time, it has to be binded, it has to be bandhana by a team, and that bandhana has to be churned. That is why you do a manthana to achieve your Karya Siddhi. Now coming to the next slide. Here you can see something very, very peculiar and very, very interesting. We have Govardhano Dharana. So first we had churning, manthana, then we had bandhana, now you have dharana. Dharana is what? Dharanam in Sanskrit means dressing oneself, holding something, holding oneself, having something with oneself, right? So here you can see Lord Krishna in the single finger, in his small finger, he is holding the Govardhanagiri, the whole hill of Govardhanagiri as an umbrella. Why it was used as an umbrella? To ward off, to cover people and give them shelter under the heavy rains and storm which happened in those days. So here there is a beautiful thing to be analyzed. Is anyone able to see what is seen here or what is displayed? Can anyone say what is the inner meaning of it? Yes. Can I have any one of you just coming out with what you feel by seeing this slide?
He's protecting his people.
Yes. And then anything else?
I think it is Lord Indra, right? Paying that respect to Krishna.
Yes, that is one point. Then what else?
I think that some backstory here is Indra wanted to, he was upset with the people, so he wanted to punish them, and then Krishna lifted,
Yes.
like when he caused a lot of rain, and then Krishna lifted the mountain to protect his people.
Yes, yes, this is one more point. Any other point?
I think
If any other
Lord
point?
Krishna was standing like that for a number of days. So maybe the patience and persistence.
Yes, yes, that's a very valid point. And then anything else which comes out?
I think he's protecting everybody, like animals, like children, everyone, like all.
Yes.
All
Very,
like
very
all
well.
religion, like doesn't matter. Everybody who's under his protection, he's protecting everybody who has come to his like who
True.
surrenders to him, or like who.
Yes, very, very valid point. Anything else further?
I think that hand, right? Is it? He's not holding the mountain with his hand, but instead with the finger. That seems a little, a little unusual.
Yes. Anything else? Anyone else? If everybody has completed, then I come out with certain interesting factors here. Can I proceed? Or
Yes,
are you able to? Yes?
no, you can proceed. We are waiting for you to
Okay.
explain.
So all these factors which you mentioned now, all of you, you can see there were 6 things which came out of you, right? One was saying that it is Krishna, not, he's protecting everyone there, irrespective of whether it is animals or whether it is humans or whether it is different creeds or castes or whether different age groups or whatever. So that was one important point which came out. The second thing came out that it was the legend between Indra who brought out adversity of rains and storm, and Krishna had to protect them, right? This was the second thing, which was more linked to protection. Then the third point came out saying that it is very unusual that he's not holding the whole mountain with hand, just but with one finger, right? This was another point which came out. Then the next point came out that in spite of all the this thing, rains and these things, protection he was doing for all of them, and for days together he was standing there. That was another point which came out, which indicates, as you told, the perseverance and the patience of a human nature, which was depicted. So all these points came out, which were different points. So if you analyze what you were saying, this is what I wanted you to come out with. Actually, if you analyze the initial thing, when you said, you were only saying about the legend that Indra brought in rain, so Krishna had to hold this, right? So that was the only simple explanation which came out first. If you analyze after that, the next point which came out was something different. It said that he is protecting different types of people and different even animals and everything. So overall protection of the protection aspect came out, which was something different and unique. It was not just the legend. So from the legend, we shifted out to what is the practicality, right? Then we came out with the next thing saying that he has been there for so many days, and so his patience and perseverance. So you see the concept, how it has changed. From what you were saying about Indra and Krishna, it came out to the basic factors of practicality and more sharpened way of thinking of what exactly was being done rather than the legend in itself, right? So how the churning of the mind, how the churning of your chakras already has happened, you can see the difference. This is the churning and bandhana of things. You are tying different points of one particular slide into different aspects, but initially you went into the gross analysis of it, saying that Indra came out and rains came out and Krishna had to hold. And from there, it shifted to more of protection, patience, endurance, protection, and perseverance. All these aspects came into being. And then the unusual thing of holding with a finger. So there where you could see the superhuman and the strength, the physical strength. So different aspects are coming out by the analysis of your mind. Why? When the analysis is happening, that means your third eye is getting activated. You're becoming more sharpened. You're going into the intricate points rather than the outward point of the legend alone, right? This is what I wanted you to understand. And this is the way we do the Karya Siddhi in a practical way. In a simple thing also, if you are able to analyze like this, why not in a day-to-day basis to achieve Karya Siddhi? This is how we achieve our realistic goals. Just like Dhirubhai Ambani, for example, was a very, very normal human being who was not at all rich. From rags to riches, how he rose to that level. And now you can see the Reliance Industries and other things where they are in the highest of the Asia's richest people, right? How that happened even in the materialistic world. It was through analysis, day-to-day churning and manthan. Then you achieve from the gross levels, you end up more with the intricate points, and you go further deep analyzing intricate points, where you will be in a focused focal point where you will achieve what you want to. So the focus, that is what I wanted you to come out with. The focus increases. Your focal points have to increase. And that is the third eye activation in a practical way. For that, initial steps of the sleep pattern and other things are very important. So this is how I want you to practice each day. And that is why I came out with this, because it was a practical session which I wanted to have. And that is the reason, because the next levels of Karya Siddhi, the fourth level, will be purely practical. And that is why all the methodologies and the beginning which I did with this session. Now, coming to churning Mantana, then you had Bandhana, then you had Dharana. So churning, tying, and having it oneself, Dharana, these three are required. Dharana has another meaning also in Sanskrit. Dharana is the perception. So your perception also comes with more of analysis. Perceptions keep changing and gets more perfect. So no perception is negative or positive. It is more of churning towards the perfection, which is what we have to think about. And now coming to the fourth slide here, we have Daharasha Gamana. Gamanam is traveling. Daharasha Gamanam. From churning to binding to dressing and to traveling. All these 4 steps you can analyze one by one. Now coming to Daharasha Gamana. When we reach that perfection of things, and when we reach for more perfection, we get more focus. The rocket, you can see how focused it goes into the space, how it is focused and planned and programmed in such a way in the spacecraft by NASA or maybe Indian Space or whatever it is. So that is Daharasha Gamana. When we reach out to that, then we reach out to the non-limitless space rather than the sky limited, the space which is unlimited above that. We reach out to that in a focused way. It doesn't go, rocket doesn't travel in a zigzag way like a bike. It travels in a straight way, in a way which is focused to a particular target. So you are targeted to your thoughts, you are targeted to your analysis, where your third eye and Sahasrara becomes more bright to output all the aura out. This is what is achieved. So churning Mantana, then tying, which is Bandhana, then Dharana, which is dressing and perception, then Gamana. Then you travel to your heights of exponential reality of achieving things. This is what is Karya Siddhi in a practical way, in a day-to-day layman's language, which I just wanted to bring in terms of history also. Because if you analyze these slides, you can really find it something interesting. The Samudra Mantana was in Satya Yuga, which was billions of years ago. Dinosaurs KB Pele, much before. And then we came out with this Setu Bandhana, which was the next time zone, which was Ramayana Kala, which is Treta Yuga, the second Yuga in the Yuga circle. And the third one, which you see, was the Govardhana Dharana, which was in Dwapara Yuga after Ramayana, which is 5,000 odd years above us. And then coming to Daharasha Gamana, which is the one which is happening in Kali Yuga in our time, which is happening now. Then going further ahead, there will be further perfections, which is scientifically going to go in a much different way, where it was already depicted in a film. I don't remember the film's name in Hindi, Bollywood, where they showed, I remember, cars flying in the sky, cars flying in the sky, not the road, because the traffic is very heavy. The cars will fly halfway in the sky. This is how, so things are going up and up by our discoveries due to the third eye and Sahasrara activation and churning of our energies in the right way. And this is what is where we achieve our Karya Siddhis in a realistic form, and which we cannot say. That is why there is a saying that nothing is impossible. Infinite possibilities are there. It is only the way how we explore. And for that exploring, it is only that we have to correct our basic sleeping pattern, which is the third eye activation, where we come out of this so-called depressive, despondent tendencies in us, which is the main enemy for all reductions and bringing our energies and back to from the halo to the ring form. So we have to go from the ring to the halo form. rather than the reverse when it enters back to the Mooladhara and we are nowhere and we get mentally disturbed with mood swings and waste our time. So Karya Siddhi has to be done day to day, and the next levels will be a practical session into more detailed Karya Siddhi, how to achieve in a realistic way, further practices in a day-to-day simple way, which can improvise us in our own arena of achievements to achieve what we want, not imaginary, but realistic achievements, right? And now I would like to go to the next slide where we have certain important, normal, simple things which are coming up. Here you can see controlling Panchabhutas. Panchabhutas are the 5 elements, the water, fire, earth, akasha, that is the sky, and the air, right? You can see here. The Panchabhutas and control of them, the 5 elements and control of them. Don't you see that here, when this slide is seen here with the 5 elements, out of this, water, don't you see that science has already, due to the human endeavor, through the activation of our chakras and focal points, have we not controlled to a large extent the water? Are we not doing hydroelectric projects? Are we not building bridges over water? Are we not having dams which are controlling the water flow in different countries? So when humanly it's possible to control, why not in a spiritual way, also in a bigger way, to our own Panchabhutas inside our body? Water, 3/4 of the world is water. 3/4 of our body is fluid, which is water, in forms of either blood, in forms of either lymph, in forms of either phlegm, in forms of either the semen and the ova. All this water fluids in our body, which is water. Are we not able to control that? When we regulate that with our practices and food and sleeping patterns, our water inside is also controlled in the equilibrated way when we feel comfortable by our body, and we feel more concentration when we have a comfortable body. The same way, when we build dams, when we build bridges, when we build hydroelectric projects, all these things control the flow in a modulated way for water to be utilized in the right way. Panchabhuta control. Then you have fire. Fire. Don't see that fire has been also controlled to a large extent by a human way in an endeavored, focused way, so that it gives you a lot of output in the right way. Just like you have the nuclear plants, you have your fire inside, which is the digestive force, the acid, hydrochloric acid in your stomach, Jataragni. When the Jataragni is made in the right way by having the right foods, how far your Manipura chakra gets activated? That is what is the control of the fire, the Manipura chakra, right? The same way, the earth. Earth here, again, you have seen all achievements has been done by the human endeavor. Earth and controlling and modulations, just like I mentioned, from a desert to a gold mine, how geographical locations are transformed by the human endeavor to beautify it to the modulations of what we achieve aesthetically. So this can be done inside us also, the earth inside us, right? The same way, the akasha, the air. So the control of the Panchabhutas happens through the receptors, the 5 receptors in us, the indriyas, where yesterday, as we had mentioned, the way and things you touch and feel, the way and things you eat and taste, the way and things you see and experience, the way things you smell, what you smell, all these things, the Panchendriyas are very important to be tuned to control the Panchabhutas so that you can modulate them inside the body in the required levels. The same way which is seen outside in the universe, in the world, where these elements are being controlled by developing a lot of things scientifically, right? And that is what all the saints, the ascended masters used to do that. And that is what is seen here in this slide as a simple depiction. Now going to the next slide. Here you can see that I had mentioned yesterday's in the session that after, because each one of you, if you remember, recollect, we had analyzed your aura, and I said I'll come back to you individually in the WhatsApp so that confidentiality is maintained, where I tell about your aura, which I analyze, and also give you the individual slokas. So this will be done after this session today, individually to each one of you. I'll be sending you the details in the WhatsApp, right? And that is what is mentioned here. And your individual chakras, and the aura output, and the colors of aura, and the slokas, and rectification for a day-to-day way, what slokas, simple, in a simple way, which can be practiced in the modern times because you're all busy. I know that. So that will also be given to you individually after this session in your WhatsApp, so that there is confidentiality which is maintained. And then coming to the next slide. The next slide, please. Here you can see simple things for our third eye activation, which I wanted everyone to go through. You can just see this all simple things which is mentioned here, which I am really sure that each one of us many of us are daily practicing it, but not in a conscious way. If you just go through this and try to adapt and assimilate this for everyday basis, I think third eye activation can be started off immediately. You can check this. Wake up every day with a positive attitude. Exercise every day if you can, in whatever way convenient to you, walking or small yogas or whatever it is, or gym or whatever in the modern days. Eat healthy, lot of lighter food, as I mentioned, not fatty food, more of lighter energy foods, minerals, vegetables, and fruits. Avoid processed foods which have preservatives more into it, which overactivates our hormones and the Sukshma chakras. Have a goal. A smile wins over a frown, as I had mentioned yesterday. And conscious of your thought, before you sleep in the night, just go through what all you did in the day so that you are able to modulate and correct the next day. These are things which are simple, but which can bring in a lot of change in the aura output, which in turn gives us Karya Siddhi. Coming to the next slide. This is more important here. Avoid people with negative thoughts. How to avoid? See, where we are already in an environment where, suppose you are going to a corporate, you are interacting with different people. Different people will definitely have different energies and different views. And you cannot say which is negative, as I had mentioned some time before. It's a perception. You cannot say which is negative, which is positive. But how to avoid? Avoiding here means it is avoiding of that things which are not required for you according to your arena, which you have to avoid by your mind, not to take it inside. Even if you take it, just forget it. That is the way you have to do. This is a modern way of correction in the modern world, because we cannot avoid interacting with people, right? And there will be n number of people. You cannot say whether they are good or whether they are bad. There is nothing good or bad. It is only the process of the mind with each one which is different. And what you require, you take it in the right way, right? Just like what food you want, what you are comfortable, you take from a shop, right? The same way, but the shop has everything there. Now, coming to always be proactive, not reactive. Why proactive? When you're proactive, you try to assimilate a lot of things and you gain knowledge of a lot of things, and then you can selectively take what is required for you and then throw away the other things, right? Rather than reaction, where you're covering your chakras, already closing it, and you're not allowing it to open up. And be compassionate. These are all simple things, but seems to be simple, but when adapted in a day-to-day basis, will really give you the third eye activation, along with the sleeping pattern and other things which we mentioned very clearly step by step. But in the fourth level, definitely we'll be going through further full practical session of Karya Siddhi. And now I would really request every one of you to have your WhatsApp open, where I can send you the slokas and the individual aura details now one by one. Okay. And anyone has anything to come out with, interact, so that it will be good enough to know? Yes.